Finally, a little bit of good news out of the UK. Right to criticize Islam is protected under British law, judge rules. But at the same time, we have the Prime Minister of Canada today announcing that he is going to go in stronger with the European Union in climate change. And of course, this is going to mean more digital IDs. Of course, we know we are being told by the folks over there in the UK, like the EU's, what's her name, Ursula, is the one telling us that we need digital IDs to protect jobs. It's always for safety, efficiency, our own protection, isn't it? We need to enslave you in order to protect you. That's what they tell us. And so Canada and the EU working together. And of course, they are the model for much of the world. And I believe we are headed for a Eurocentric world government. That's what the Bible seems to describe. Let's get to all that. Let's start out today first with Peter McAvena in the UK. Peter, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Brannon, always good to join you. I'm sorry I joined you on negative news from the UK, but maybe a positive slant, which you brought.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start out with the good news first. Right to criticize Islam is protected under British law. That's what a judge rules. How long before he's smacked down by another judge or another court?
Right. This was an intriguing ruling by the courts, because we have the UK government pushing an Islamophobia legal definition, which is Muslim blasphemy by the back door. And yet we have this judge saying you have the right to critique Islam. And of course, Islam does not think it has any right to be critiqued or mocked or ridiculed or questioned. So this is a really intriguing ruling, and we in the UK wait to see what this actually means, whether it was just the judge pressed the wrong button on his ruling and it came up the wrong side, or whether this will have positive ramifications and pushback for the attack on free speech that we have had. And Brannon, we have had in the weekly pro-Hamas demonstrations in London, we have had the police arresting Israeli protesters because they might inflame concern or offense amongst the pro-Hamas demonstrators. And I just been messaging someone who's going to be on my show soon, hopefully, and that's Joey Barton, ex-footballer, who says what he thinks online, and he was just prosecuted for a grossly offensive statement. Now, I don't know what world we live in, but there used to be a day where if you said something offensive, it was not legally prosecutable in a court. You're not breaking the law. You were simply engaging maybe in a way that was crass, offensive, but surely that wasn't passing the law of legality. But that's where we are in the UK. So you've got many different court rulings all clashing against one another. In the middle of that, you've got a Labour Party, Keir Starmer, obviously in disarray, and many have been calling for Keir Starmer's head, metaphorically, for him to stand down as Prime Minister. So there's a huge issue in the Labour Party, but really they've been pushing for this Islamophobia definition. So it is utter confusion here in the UK, but I will hold on to your good news, Brannon.
Because that's about all you guys have. Now, let's go to a speech today, or in the last few hours, maybe last 24 hours or so, by the Prime Minister of Canada. I can find it here in all the things I have opened, because he is saying he's going to work more with your government to bring in really tyranny, EU and Canada working together on climate change, censoring, all kinds of things that they're going to do, I guess, under the guise of saving us all. Here it is. Here's the Prime Minister of Canada.
Joint research and innovation. You know, at its core, final word, Europe was born as a project of peace. And Canada, over the years, over the decades, has served alongside European allies in pursuit of that peace. It's that in those circumstances, from Vimy to Juno, that the world came to know the value of our strength. But now we're working alongside the European Union to combat climate change, to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, and to protect, amongst other things, academic and scientific freedoms. In these ways, the world knows the strength of our values. And this partnership, which is in defense, in security, and economics, really builds the strength, builds those strengths in both our jurisdictions, and lives up to our values.
Now, I don't know when this happened, but here's the clip going around today. But there you go. We're headed for supranational nations. This is very much a part of globalism. And what I wrote about in my book in 2016, The Coming Religious Reich, which I want to share with you a little bit about what's in that book. But we're headed toward these partnerships and these agreements that create these supranational countries, which I think, again, we're headed for a Eurocentric world government. I'm holding to it. I believe that's what the Bible describes. A lot of people don't realize, I know this audience is made up of a lot of very, very informed, intelligent people, so they do. But London is so full of major, major financial institutions. So I think there's a lot of reasons to think we're headed for a Eurocentric world government, and I'm not shocked to see Canada making this alliance more with the EU. Now, the question is, how long before Canada and America and Mexico become our own alliance and do the same thing collectively as Canada's doing with the EU? Peter?
Well, Mark Carney, the new leader in Canada, is an interesting character because, of course, he was head of the Bank of Canada, I think 2008 to 2013, and then he became the governor of the Bank of England. He has never been a politician before. I don't think he's been elected before. I think he was dropped into that position, and actually then Canada went to the polls and he was elected as Prime Minister without ever having sat in the Canadian Parliament. So he has no clue of how the political side works. He knows on the finance, and he is a liberal. So when you play that clip, I feel shudders going down my spine, Brannon, because I thought we had got rid of him. And yet he is now back on the world stage. And the Conservatives, the Canadian electorate, they snatched defeat from the jaws of victory when they actually elected Mark Carney to be leader. And he is very much plugged in as governor of Bank of England. He was very much plugged in to the European side, to the EU, to the European Central Bank, to that huge global entity that seeks to control our lives, 500 million people's lives in Europe. And he's very liberal. His daughter, I think one of his daughters was one of the early patients in the Tavistock Clinic in London, which was one of the world's premier sex change clinics, where they butchered thousands and thousands of children without any parental engagement. He was part of that. So that shows where he is moving in terms of godlessness, in terms of butchering children, in terms of the LGBT agenda, in terms of this supranational organizations that want to control things above and beyond national government. He has no love at all of the national state. And we've had this clash in Europe with countries like Italy and Hungary and Poland actually standing for the rights of the nation state. And then we've had the global entities trying to seek to destroy that. And although he's been elected Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney is very much in erasing the lines of the national state and wanting that supranational, international control of these globalist bodies. So it is really concerning of the position he has, the rhetoric he has, and of how he is pushing that through the media. So all that is a concern for Canada.
Can you go back real quick to the Tavistock Institute? Because I don't know if you know this, but in my brainwashing series, I talk a lot about the Tavistock Institute, which one of their leaders came out of the World Health Organization. And they were big on the idea of creating an environment where men and women, the population, was put in a warlike scenario, because people, when they were put in such a state of fear and anxiety, calm and then trauma, they would be more open to ideas and suggestions they otherwise would not be. The Tavistock Institute. And you just mentioned them in relation to Carney. What is his connection to it?
Well, of course, your viewers and Worldview Tube will be understanding this situation. And the Tavistock Clinic, I think, was running for about 20 years, was shut down and then reopened. As we often find with these entities, they are shut down legally, but they reopen elsewhere under a different name with the same people. And that's where we found the Tavistock Clinic. And it had been experimenting, butchering children for 20 years without any long-term evidence of the damage or not damage of puberty blockers, of these transition experiments on children. And we had so many children who were put through this, who basically went to these clinics because they were confused with their identity. And the vast majority of children who go through that confusion come out the other side as they are born, the entity they're born in, male or female. But they went to these clinics just as children go, I think, often to abortion clinics and want to ask for help. And the help they're given is a pathway along a certain track that goes along with the ideology of that entity. And certainly the Tavistock Clinic, it was pushing these children along a sex change conveyor belt. And they had little understanding of what was happening because they were utterly confused. And the anger I feel, Brannon, is that the British state were experimenting on vulnerable children. They came to these clinics with confusion of who they were, their identity, and instead of finding someone they could discuss that with and help them through that process, they were very quickly put on experimental drugs and puberty blockers, which are zero long-term understanding of the huge impact they have. Yet they were put on these, they were chopped, cut off, bits removed, moved on that process. And I've talked to Chloe Cole. I talked to Chloe Cole maybe 3-4 months ago on my program, and she is one of the very high-profile detransitioners from California. And she talked about her understanding her experience, her story about being pushed down this and now regretting that. And of course, many of these children possibly are regretting the decision they have not made by themselves, but being coerced down by these institutions. So the Tavistock Clinic is a despicable institution that sadly is replicated across Europe. I know the Netherlands was one of the first countries to bring this. The UK followed quickly.
All right.
And the damage done to children is horrendous.
The computer's going to take it away. It'll come back. We're going to get to more. Don't go away, folks. Andy Wood's also coming up.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate undersink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity, all from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon Howse.
All right, guys, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. We're going to go to Dr. Andy Woods here in just one moment, but we'll finish our conversation with Peter McIlvena. Take a look at this. This is page 77 of my book, The Coming Religious Reich. The Coming Religious Reich, page 77 from 2016. As Rob Condon also reveals in his excellent book, The European Union and the Supra-Religion, The real father of the European Union is Jean Monnet, who lived from 1888 to 1979. In 1943, Monnet declared, quote, "There will be no peace in Europe if the states are reconstituted on the basis of national sovereignty. The countries of Europe are too small to guarantee their peoples the necessary prosperity and social development. The European states must constitute themselves into a federation," end quote. And Monnet believed, as I write, he could implement a global supra-authority through economics and regulation. By the way, think climate change regulation, folks. To accomplish this goal, Monnet laid out a five-step plan to create a supra-authority. His plan is now being implemented and is causing nation states to surrender their national and economic sovereignty to a global body of unelected officials, much like the unelected world leaders Tony Blair is calling to rule the world. Monnet's five-step plan mandates include: 1, economic free trade partnerships; 2, open borders; shared citizenship and monetary system; 3, external security partnership through solidarity in foreign policy; 4, internal security, common rule of law and enforcement; and 5, total control by supra-government of human rights and social progress, end quote. 2016, by the way, you don't need to buy the book, The Coming Religious Reich. It is available for you as a member of the Vault at worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, all 500 pages, 600 footnotes. That book is there. The other book came out a couple weeks ago, my book on Hamas. October 7th comes to America, inside the U.S. network of Hamas in America. That's available in the Vault now, of course, worldviewtube.com/vault. And as of today, we have now just released my book on Siege. Siege, just released it. That's based on my 2019 documentary, Siege. And if you want to get that book again, you do not need to buy it. It's available in the Vault as a PDF to read online or download, print off at worldviewtube.com/vault. Subtitled, "The Clear and Present Dangers Pushing America to the Brink of a Marxist Islamic Revolution, Civil War, World War III, and Globalism." Now, folks, look at that subtitle. That was December 2019. Are all those issues on the table right now? On the brink of a Marxist Islamic revolution in America? Yeah, look at what's going on with Mondani and all these other Marxists and Islamists working together throughout the country. Civil War, the polls and the data is showing us more and more Americans believe we're headed in that direction. World War III, it's already begun in some forms. Globalism, we're hearing it today out of Mark Carney. That was December 2019. Do you know I got pushback from some so-called smart people? Do you really want to put Civil War in there? Yeah, those were the smart people. So again, that book just came out today. It's based on my 2019 documentary. It just came out today. You don't have to buy it. Worldviewtube.com. Worldviewtube.com/vault. Worldviewtube.com/vault. Peter McIlvena of Heart of Oaks.com. It joins us for a few more minutes than Dr. Andy Woods. Peter, what do you make of the five-step plan by Jean Monnet, really the father of the European Union? Sounds like it's actually happening. Sounds like the supra-authority, the supra-government is what exactly we just were hearing in this partnership between Canada and the EU, which I think will happen, particularly as even Donald Trump is calling for America to merge with Canada and Mexico.
Your book is bang on, and you mentioned Tony Blair, who's the bogeyman in this, and I do hope and pray that he's not one of the individuals who actually brings peace to Gaza and Israel. That's another part of that. But you're right that we had initially an economic relationship, and that was with a coal and steel alliance in terms of those two commodities being traded in Europe. Then it went to a political alliance, then it went to a judicial, then it went to an economic, and is now at a military level. And I think just today or yesterday, Germany announced that it was now going to bring conscription for all its men to prepare them for a war against Russia. And Germany wanting actually war against another country. When have we seen that before? So this is hugely concerning of Europe, Europe that have failed economically. I mean, huge failing economically. We are supposedly in Europe, 500 million people. It should be an economic powerhouse, and yet it pales into insignificance to the US. Yet Europe are pushing with this connecting together of those states, erasing the boundaries, and with this moving towards a military union, that is where I think this is very concerning. We've seen the rollout of the digital ID in terms of the COVID tyranny that we saw, and that was a joined up EU system. And that is moving at pace along with digital IDs in other countries. But it is that military relationship, that military suggestion by the German government that all German men. So I don't know whether the German parliament want a war between Germany and Russia. If that's what they want, then we are in serious issues. That level of stupidity at just not understanding the geopolitical situation, and instead of working things through and discussing things with each of those 27 EU countries, they are going over the head, and we've seen this going over the head of certainly of Hungary and Poland, that have those close relationships, certainly in terms of energy, in terms of trade with Russia. They're pushing back a lot on this EU march towards war. So all of this is very concerning. What you put in your book, that 5-step plan, is bang on where we are. And at the end of that 5-step plan, we are at the military push for the EU.
And what do you make of this plan? I've been seeing some maps of a plan to divide Russia. What do you think some of the elite are planning on doing that? Is that what this is all about? And is it about assets? Is it about minerals? Again, particularly as we see we're going from a debt-based system to a tokenization system?
It's difficult to know whether this is just the EU showing off, showing the power they supposedly have to the outside world, especially America, or whether they're actually seriously looking at carving up Russia. Because after 3 years, there is a stalemate, but that stalemate has been because the EU are using Ukraine as a proxy country for a war against Russia. Ukraine only is there has not been peace simply because the European Union and Biden have actually thrown in a huge amount of weaponry. And some of this weaponry, I mean, the Storm Shadow that actually the UK supplied the Ukrainian government, one of the most advanced missiles available in the world today, that actually was given to the Ukraine military before the British military received it. So we, instead of the British military having a weapon that will protect Britain, we have decided that we have handed over all those weaponry to Ukraine to fight that war. Britain are left defenseless, as are every European country are utterly defenseless in terms of the munitions that have been passed over. We have depleted our reserves simply because we have handed it to another country. So Europe are in an extremely weak position. It is rhetoric at this point because we no longer have a military defense. I think the UK head of the UK army about 4 or 5 months ago said that if Britain went to war, we would have about 3 days of armaments, 3 days left, in which case we would be exhausted of any bullets, of any artillery shells, of any rockets, any missiles. We would have nothing left. And the issue is because we have given it away to a foreign nation. So it is, the division of Russia is utterly bonkers. But sadly, I think we have stupidity that has pervaded through the European political mindset and certainly in the UK.
Yeah. Wow. Hearts of Oak. Hearts of Oak. I thought it was Heart of Oaks, but it's hearts. Many hearts, one oak. Heartsofoak.org. Heartsofoak.org. Anything I have not asked you, you need to tell our audience before you go?
No, it's just please pray for the situation. And I know your audience does, Brannon. Pray that we actually would at peace on the edge of Europe, in Ukraine, Russia. Pray for the peace to remain in Israel. And of course, pray for peace of Jerusalem and Israel, which I know your viewers pray each and every day. So thank you, Brannon.
Thank you. And Peter, by the way, we last night for almost an hour, we covered the war in Sudan, which is basically not even being mentioned. Over 2 million Christians murdered by the Islamists in Sudan. Heartbreaking footage. Women and children, pregnant women being murdered, put in ditches, trenches, murdered. Over 2 million, somewhere around 2.8 million so far, murdered Christians by the Islamists. And it seems as though Sudan has the largest untapped oil and gold reserves, a huge untapped gold and oil reserves. And you've got, countries lining up on this. Annie did a big Substack on it. It was with me last night. Are you following this? Because this has gotten very little attention in the media. I guess it's because it's Christians and there are no Jews to blame for this. So the genocide is the Christians in Sudan, but we're being told it's the Palestinian and Hamas terrorists by Israel.
What's happening in Sudan is horrendous, and I've also watched what's happening in Ethiopia,
Nigeria.
Nigeria. I read a great article in the Washington Times 2 days ago on the bloodshed that's happening in Ethiopia, and I've talked to a number of Ethiopian pastors of what is happening there, and of course in northern Nigeria. And it seems though the West have abandoned, except President Trump, and he is actually waking up the world to this. And I really do pray that President Trump actually speaking on what is happening in Africa, not just Nigeria, and I hope that his understanding and his intelligence and his engagement spreads to what is happening in Sudan and Ethiopia, because those are horrendous cases where we have slaughters, as you mentioned, Brannon, and the West is simply not aware. And if it's President Trump is the individual that highlights these atrocities to the world, then wonderful. He's the one that God raises up to highlight this. And we need to pray for brothers and sisters in Christ that face persecution because of their faith, persecution unto death. And that is something that we know little about. And yet that is happening in large parts of the world. So yeah, I've certainly seen that a little bit, but certainly also seen Ethiopia and northern Nigeria, and I'm sure it's been replicated in other nations. But thank God for President Trump, Brannon.
Well, let's hope he does something about it. And we have a full program at worldviewtube.com. The videos are heartbreaking. Mothers and their children begging for their lives as they're shot down. Men begging as they're shot down by the Islamists. So it clearly doesn't fit the narrative, but it needs to be brought to the attention of people, and we're going to continue to do that, as I know you are too, Peter. Heartsofoak.org, heartsofoak.org. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Brannon.